Hello and welcome to our Monday Night Bible Study. We are continuing our look into the book of Ecclesiastes. Um, thank you for putting up with me for yet another week. We'll see how this one goes. What gain? And let me go back to me. Allegedly, this one's going to be shorter. What gain has the worker from his toil? I've seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. He's made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he's put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. I perceive that there's nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in his toil, for this is God's gift to man. I perceived that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. God has done it so that people fear before him. That which is already has been. That which is to be already has been. God seeks what has been driven away. What gain has the worker from his toil? Interestingly, I don't really believe this is a rhetorical question. I don't think that Solomon is just trying to use a question here to make a point. I think that this is a legitimate question that Solomon is answering here. What is the point of all this? What gain do you have for everything that you are doing, for all the toil that you're doing here? And the word toil here is like business. It's burden. It's an occupation. It's a preoccupation. It's all of the stuff that you're doing. What's the point? All of the stuff that you're doing. What ultimately, what is going to be the gain for all of this? And he says that it's not I've seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I've seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. I like to have the scriptures up there when I'm reading them, so you don't think I'm making stuff up. We all have it. We all carry this burden, this uncertainty, this idea of what am I doing that's going to last? What am I doing that's going to have consequence? Is all of the worry worth it? Is all of the struggle worth it? Is all of the things that I'm going through, is it going to be worth it? Is it going to make a difference in the end? And my burden may look different than yours, and yours is going to look different than mine. And there are people that are carrying the weight of raising children. There are people that are carrying the weight of running a business. There are people that are carrying the weight of trying to keep a company afloat. There are people that are carrying the weight of aging parents. There are people that are carrying the weight of what they feel like are dead-end careers. Everybody's carrying these burdens and these things that demand our time and they demand our attention. And it seems like the rewards are so small. You're sick. You got health problems. And it's a struggle. Your boss treats you bad. And it's a struggle. Your kids are crazy. And it's a struggle. You're lonely. You're grieving. The burdens are different, but ultimately the shape of all of this is the same. We are finite people trying to make sense of something that is beyond us, trying to make sense of something that is infinite, is larger than us. And so a farmer goes out and plants his seed. And he tills the ground, and he does everything to the best of his ability. He does exactly what he's supposed to do. He watches the calendar, and he he checks the almanac, and he checks the weather, and he consults all the forecasts and everything, and he plants all the seed at the time when it was supposed to be planted, and he does his fertilization, and he's prepared the ground over the winter, and he's done all the stuff right. But ultimately, whether or not the rains come are not up to him. Ultimately, whether or not the seed grows is not up to him. He's done everything that he can do, but the uncertainty is real, and the worry can be real, and the burden of, is this going to work out the way I want it to, can be real. And Solomon is not pretending that it's not. This is again, I'll say, I've said it a lot during this series. It's an extremely real book. And so one of the most important things that we can do as people, one of the most important things you can do when you're talking to someone who is struggling, is not pretend that struggle is not pretend that the struggle is not real, not pretend that the burden is not real, not pretend that somehow if they had more faith, if they had more belief, if they just, if they were better Christians, then they wouldn't have these problems, and they wouldn't have these questions, and they wouldn't have these doubts. It's just not true. The burden is real, and Solomon acknowledges it, and he looks at it, and he sees it, and he understands that it's real, and he understands that this is going to be the case, but he gives us an answer. He says God has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he's put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. And so this is Solomon's answer to this question in the middle of these questions, in the middle of the doubts, in the middle of the worries, in the middle of the problems and circumstance. Solomon brings this and he says, you know what? Here's the thing. These two things are true. First of all, everything is beautiful in its time, not your time. Everything is not beautiful when you see it. Everything is not beautiful when you experience it. Everything is not beautiful when you're going through it, but everything is beautiful in its time. Sometimes that time is eternity, right? Not everything feels beautiful right now. Hospitals don't feel beautiful. Getting fired don't feel beautiful. Businesses failing don't feel beautiful. Children going nuts doesn't feel beautiful. None of this stuff feels beautiful when it happens now, but we're here. There's a vantage point from which everything is beautiful, and that vantage point is God's. And this is not to say that all of the things that happen to us are going to be beautiful things. Solomon is 100% not saying that everything that happens to you is a beautiful thing, and it's good that thing happened to you. Solomon is saying that just because you don't understand something doesn't mean that thing is not there for a purpose. Solomon's answer is not a philosophical argument. Solomon's answer is a statement of trust. God has made everything beautiful in its time. There is a time. There will be a time when things can make sense. There will be a time when you will understand. The old song, "We'll understand it better by and by." It's maybe we've done it so much that it has become a platitude. We don't really think about it the way that we should, but we will understand at some point. We'll be able to see from God's point of view. You will be able to see from God's point of view. We may not see it here. You may never understand why. There's not a sermon that could be preached. There's not a Bible study that could be taught. There's not a song that could be sung. There's not a counselor you can go to that will make you understand why to some things. But it doesn't mean that there's not a why. It means that we can't see it. We don't understand it now. It's not beautiful yet. So why would God do this? The Bible says that God puts eternity in our hearts, and yet man can't can't figure out what God has done from the beginning to the end. God gives us a longing. God gives us an understanding that there's something beyond us. God gives us an understanding that there's something greater than us. God gives us an understanding that there's something that we can't reach and that we can't quite touch and that we can't quite get a hold of. And it seems like it would have been so much easier for God just to give us all the answers and for God just to let us have everything when we want it. And it's because we're not made to see the full picture. We're not equipped to see what God can see. We are made for God. We are not made to be God. We are made to worship God. We are not made to sit on the throne of God. This longing is not for us to see. It's for us to see God. It's not for us necessarily to see why, because by the time we understand why, it won't matter why. It is made for us to be drawn into the presence and the person of who God is. The restlessness that we feel, the questions that we feel, the longing that we feel, the desire that we feel for something beyond what we have is the thing that God has placed within our hearts to call us to Him, to always make us look to Him, to always make us lift our eyes, to look for something that's a little higher, a little better, a little different. We long for lack of a better phrase, we long for Eden. We desperately want the communion with God that Adam had. We desperately want to walk in Eden, but we have what we have, and the gap between these two things, is where our faith has to grow. And so our faith has to expand to fill this uncertainty between what we have and what we know that God wants for us. And it's not wishful thinking, and it's not, I really hope that something goes well, and it's not, if I can just kind of have enough faith points or whatever stored up. And so, if I get 16 ounces of faith, then I get a pound of miracles, right? That's not the way faith works. It's about building up a relationship with God, and that I know who God is, and I've longed for Him, and I search for Him, and I learn about Him, and I learn about His character, and I learn about His nature. And so the more I understand Him, the more trust that I can have in Him, and that trust is where the faith grows. And even though I don't have Eden, even though I don't have heaven, even though I don't have understanding, even though I don't have the answers that I'm looking for, my faith can fill in that gap. And that gap many times is about contentment. He says, I perceived that there is nothing better for them, for man, for us, for people. There is nothing better for them than to be joyful and do good as long as they live. Also, that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all of his toil. This is God's gift to man. And honestly, it doesn't sound like a really great present, right? It doesn't sound like something that's really good. But this is Solomon's answer to the original question. What do we gain for our toil? We gain the God-given ability to find joy in what we have been assigned to do. We gain the ability to find joy and peace and contentment in doing the thing that God has asked us to do, not in the results. I'm not in charge of the results. I'm not in charge of what happens. I'm not in charge of. That's just not my responsibility. It's not in the recognition. It's not in the accumulation. It's not in the building of the wealth. It's not in any of that stuff. It's about me doing the thing that God has asked me to do. This is not to say we don't care about outcomes. Obviously, we care about outcomes. This is not about indifference. This is not just, la-di-da your way through life. But be joyful about it. Do good work, do good things. The thing that you're doing is good. The work that you're doing is good. The effort that you're making is good. The fact that whatsoever your hands have found to do, that you are doing it as unto the Lord. You are doing it with all your might. You're doing it as worship. If you're If you're a preacher, your study is worship. If you're a janitor, your sweeping is worship. If you work at McDonald's, the hamburgers that you make, praise the Lord, it's a form of worship because I'm doing the thing that is in front of me. Look, we have this big thing about calling, right? And so I'm just going to be a slacker until I can get the thing that I'm called to do. I'm going to go to work. I'm just going to work at McDonald's until I get the call to be the lawyer. I'm just going to go to work at McDonald's until I can do this. I'm just going to work here until. And our attitude is, this thing doesn't matter. This thing is not important. This thing can be throwaway. This time in my life is just wasted, because eventually I'm going to get to somewhere better. I'm going to get to somewhere grander. I'm going to get to somewhere where I'm finally recognized for my talent and my abilities. And it's just not the way life works. Do good where you are. Joseph in the prison doesn't have the ability to be anything other than a prisoner, but he is going to be the best prisoner he can be. Joseph in Potiphar's house doesn't really have the ability to be anything other than a slave, but he's going to be the best slave in that house that he can be. I'm going to be the best version of me that I can be, because I'm going to give it 100% wherever I am. I'm going to work hard to do the thing here. We talk about doing the thing that God has called you to do. What God has called you to do is be a light and to be a representative of His kingdom wherever you are, regardless of whether or not you think that it is your ultimate calling. So do the work, right? Plant the seeds, cook the meal, raise the child, build the thing, do it well and do it faithfully. But He does not say control the outcome. He doesn't say make sure it succeeds. He do your best. Don't be a slacker. Do everything that you can. But it's not your job to make sure that the seed grows. It's not your job to make sure that everything works out the way it's supposed to be, because that's not in your power, and it's not supposed to be in your power. The moment you make your joy depend on and contingent on the outcomes of the things that you are striving for and that you're looking for, you have handed your peace over to something that you can't control. This is why Paul says in Philippians, I'm not speaking of being in need, right? He said, I've learned how to want, I've learned how to have money, I've learned how to not have money, I've learned how to have plenty, I've learned how to have not as much as I should have. But I've learned in whatsoever situation I'm in, therewith to be content. I've learned it. It didn't come naturally. It wasn't something I just didn't get, the Lord didn't zap me with the contentment arrow or whatever, and all of a sudden I'm just content here. I learned it because there were times when I was not happy. There were times when there was times when I wasn't real happy with where I was, but I had to learn that God was still faithful even when I didn't think I had enough. God was faithful. Obviously, God's faithful when we're rich, but sometimes God's just as faithful let me rephrase that. God is always just as faithful when we're poor. We just can't see it. We want the outcome. I want the good stuff. I want to have the fruits roll in. I want to have the accolades roll in. And if I'm going to work at McDonald's and be a fry cook, I want my name up on the billboard that says I'm the best fry cook, whatever cooked a fry in the history of the McDonald's Corporation. I want to be known as the best janitor that ever. I may do this thing and I may do this menial thing, but I want you to recognize who I am. And here's the deal: doesn't matter if anybody recognizes who you are. What matters is that God sees the effort that you put in, and you can be content. You can learn to be content. You can learn to relish and find joy in what you do, not necessarily the outcomes of what you do. And so in verses 14 and 15, he says, I perceived. I'm trying to see my time here. I apologize. I perceived that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it. Nothing can be taken from it. God has done it so that people fear before Him. That which is has already been. That which is to be already has been. God seeks what has, and God seeks what has been driven away. This is not fatalism. This is not nihilism. This is not throw up your hands and quit. This is not nothing matters. This is the opposite. God's work is complete. God's work is sovereign. God's work is permanent. I'm not responsible for holding the universe together. That's not my job. It's not my job to control outcomes. It's not my job to control what happens. It's not my job to control whether or not somebody gets upset, somebody gets mad. I'm just not licensed to be a jerk, right? I can't be a jerk. But if somebody gets upset about something that's beyond my control, it's beyond my control. I can't do anything about it, no matter how much I want to. I can't do anything about who wins Employee of the Month. I can do the best job that I can do, and I'm not responsible for guaranteeing that my effort produces the results that I want. I am responsible for my effort. I am responsible for doing the thing to the best of my ability. God seeks what has been driven away is interesting. So, the things that have been lost, the things that have been discarded, the things that have been forgotten, the things, all of that little effort and all that little stuff that you put in that you think nobody noticed, God keeps good accounts of that stuff. God understands where that is. God understands where all of that stuff belongs. We all think that we're special. We all think that nobody's ever had a problem like us. Nobody's ever seen anything like we've seen. Paul says in 1 Corinthians that there has been no temptation fallen man, but that which is common to man. We all feel like that the things that we're doing don't matter. We all feel like the things that we're doing aren't really accomplishing anything. We all feel like I'm working hard, but what is it? Like, what is it that is what am I doing? What good is what I'm doing? And we tie our joy to our outcomes, and we tie our peace to the result, rather than letting God control and me just put in the work. So what does it look like? First of all, be honest with yourself about the burden. Be honest with God about, God knows anyway, right? You might as well go ahead and tell him. Don't pretend you're okay when you're not. Solomon looks around and says, it sure does look hopeless. Face it. Look at it. Don't hide from it. Look at the problem. Look at the struggle. Look at what you're seeing, and just be honest. Be honest about what you're facing. Secondly, understand you're not in charge of the time. Everything is beautiful, but it's beautiful in God's time. It's not beautiful in your time. You're not the boss of the clock. Everybody is traveling into the future at the rate of 1 second per second. And you can be the wisest person on earth. You can literally be the wisest person on earth and not be able to answer the questions. It's not your job to answer the questions. Lay that burden down. And thirdly, the joy is in the work itself. Today. Live joyfully today. Find joy in what you do today. Find joy in the mundane, boring, everyday junk. Find the joy. Find the contentment. Find the peace. Understand that so much of your life is going to be lived between powerful moves of God and great altar calls. You've got to find a way to find joy in your toil, to find joy in your business. I'm going to put everything that I have into this, and then I'm going to turn it over to the Lord, and that's going to be enough. Thank you for hanging out with me for about 25 minutes. It's a little bit shorter. Thank you. I love you. God loves you. Lord bless you. And I'll talk to you next week.